Welcome back. This channel exists because of your support. Subscribe, hit like, and share your thoughts in the comments. Now let's get into the story. I was halfway through my dinner when she said it. Not hinted at it, not led up to it gently, just dropped it right there on our kitchen table like she was announcing a schedule change. It was a Friday night in March, one of those rare evenings where we were both actually home at the same time. The takeout containers from Siam Square were spread across the table, our usual Friday tradition when she wasn't working late. The apartment was quiet except for the distant sounds of traffic on Beacon Street below. I'd opened a bottle of wine, thinking maybe we'd watch a movie after dinner. Actually spend time together for once. I need to talk about us. About this marriage. The noodles suddenly felt heavy on my tongue. I set down my fork carefully, the metal clicking against the ceramic plate louder than it should have been in the sudden silence. I looked at her. Really looked at her. Jennifer was still in her work clothes, the navy blazer she'd bought specifically for important meetings, her blonde hair pulled back in that severe bun she wore to look more authoritative. She had this expression I'd come to recognize over 6 years together. Lips pressed thin, eyes focused somewhere past my left shoulder, fingers fidgeting with the stem of her wine glass. The one where she'd already made a decision and was just going through the motions of pretending it was a discussion. My stomach tightened, but I kept my voice level. Okay, talk. She wrapped both hands around her wine glass like she was trying to warm them, even though the apartment was perfectly comfortable. I've been offered the VP position at Sterling & Cross. It's everything I've worked for, Andrew. Everything I've been building toward since business school. But the hours, the travel, the demands. I can't do it while being married. Not the way you want me to be married. There it was. 6 years of build-up delivered in 3 sentences. 6 years of missed dinners and canceled plans, and just 1 more hour at the office texts. 6 years of coming in second to conference calls and client meetings and networking events. All of it leading to this moment, to her sitting across from me in our Back Bay apartment, telling me I was the obstacle standing between her and success. I leaned back in my chair, studying her face in the dim light. No tears, no hesitation. She'd rehearsed this. How long have you been thinking about this? I asked. Since the preliminary interview. 3 months ago. 3 months. She'd been planning her exit for a quarter of a year while I was over here thinking we were fine. Well, not fine exactly. We'd never really been fine, but I thought we were working on it. Okay, I said again. She blinked. Okay, what? Okay, take the job. Do what you need to do. The confusion on her face was almost worth the tightness in my chest. This wasn't the script she'd prepared for. You're not going to ask me to reconsider? Her voice went up slightly at the end. You've already decided, I said simply. I'm just respecting that decision. She set down her wine glass hard enough that some sloshed over the rim. I thought you'd understand. This is my dream, Andrew. I've worked toward this for years. I do understand. You want your career more than you want this marriage. That's pretty clear. That's not fair, she said, her voice getting that defensive edge I knew so well. I'm trying to have both. I almost laughed at that. No, you're trying to have your career while I manage everything else. There's a difference. She stood up, grabbing her phone from the table. I need some space to think about this conversation. Take all the space you need, I said, picking my fork back up. She stared at me for a long moment, probably waiting for me to crack. When I didn't, she grabbed her purse and keys from the counter. I'm going to stay at my parents' place for a few days, she said from the doorway. Okay, that's all you're going to say? I looked up at her. What do you want me to say, Jen? You told me our marriage is incompatible with your career goals. I agreed. What else is there? The door closed behind her. Not a slam, just a quiet click. I sat there for a minute, staring at her half-eaten takeout. 6 years. And she walked away like it was a job she was quitting, not a marriage she was ending. The weekend passed in a strange kind of silence. Our apartment had never felt so big. Saturday morning, I woke up to 3 texts from her, all sent around 2 a.m. Must have been lying awake at her parents' house in Brookline, probably in her old childhood bedroom with the pale pink walls she'd always complained about. We need to discuss this properly. Please don't make any rash decisions. Can we talk tomorrow? Rash decisions. That was rich coming from someone who'd been planning this exit strategy for 3 months while I was over here thinking we were building something together. I set my phone face down on the nightstand and went for a run. The morning air along the Charles River was crisp, That particular bite that March has in Boston when winter hasn't quite let go. I pushed myself harder than usual, trying to outrun the thoughts circling in my head. Had I seen this coming? Should I have? Looking back, the signs were all there. The way she'd started saying I instead of we when talking about her future. The increasing frequency of work dinners I wasn't invited to. The subtle shift from we should plan a vacation to I don't have time for vacation right now. I ran past MIT, over the Longfellow Bridge, all the way to the Esplanade and back. By the time I returned to the apartment, my legs were burning and my mind was clearer. Or maybe just too tired to spiral anymore. I didn't respond to her texts. What was there to say? She wanted freedom to chase her ambitions without the inconvenience of a husband who expected her attention occasionally. I gave her exactly that. Sunday evening, she texted again. The tone had shifted from pleading to practical. I'm coming by Monday at 10 a.m. to get some clothes. I typed back. I'll be out running. He's where it always is. Monday morning, I went for another run along the Charles River. The route was becoming meditative, my feet finding the rhythm automatically. Stride, breathe, stride, breathe. Focus on the physical instead of the emotional. The March air was cold enough to sting my lungs, but it felt good. Cleansing somehow. Like I was burning away the parts of myself that had bent and shaped themselves to fit someone else's life. By the time I got back to the apartment mid-morning, she'd been and gone. I could tell by the empty hangers in the closet, the gaps on her side of the bathroom counter where her expensive skincare products used to live. She'd taken her work clothes, her laptop, her stack of business books from the nightstand. She'd left the bedroom furniture, the kitchen stuff, the framed photos from our wedding still hanging in the hallway. Probably figured she'd be back once I came to my senses and agreed to whatever arrangement would let her have both the marriage and the VP title without actually having to maintain the marriage. I took the wedding photos down that afternoon. Didn't throw them away, just put them in a box in the closet. Out of sight felt better than seeing them every day. That first week, I fell into a new routine without really planning it. Morning runs became daily instead of occasional. I started hitting the gym after work instead of rushing home to coordinate dinner schedules that never seemed to work out anyway. The apartment stayed clean because I wasn't accommodating someone else's mess. I ate when I was hungry instead of waiting for texts that said, running late, eat without me. When my coworker Scott invited me to poker night on Friday, I said yes for the first time in months. Before, I would have checked with Jen first, made sure she didn't have plans that required me to be home or available. Now I just said yes. Scott lived in Somerville, a renovated triple-decker near Davis Square. I showed up with a six-pack of Sam Adams, found 5 other guys already there, chips and cards spread across his kitchen table. Andrew, Scott dealt me in. Glad you could make it this time. Where's Jen? Staying at her parents' place. Needed space. He paused mid-shuffle, reading something in my face. Everything okay? It is what it is. He waited for me to elaborate. When I didn't, he moved on to explaining the rules for Texas Hold'em to one of the new guys. I appreciated that about Scott. He knew when to leave things alone. The game went late. I lost $40, drank 3 beers, and realized I'd laughed more in 4 hours than I had in the past month. On the drive home, windows down despite the cold, I felt something shift. Not happiness exactly, but the absence of constant low-level tension I'd been carrying for so long I forgot it was there. 2 weeks in, my phone rang during lunch. Jennifer's mother. Andrew, dear, Jennifer tells me you two are having difficulties. I set down my sandwich. Barbara Bradford had never called me directly before. This was going to be interesting. She told me the marriage was preventing her from taking her dream job. I said. I agreed to let her pursue it. Silence on the other end. Then, carefully, surely you could compromise. Many couples manage demanding careers. I've been compromising for 6 years, Barbara. This time she said she couldn't do both. I believed her. She's under a lot of pressure. Barbara tried again. I understand. That's why I'm not adding to it by making this difficult. The conversation ended awkwardly. I could tell she wanted to say more, but what was there to say? Her daughter had made a choice. I respected it. End of story. At the 1-month mark, I ran into Diana Walsh at Thinking Cup on Tremont Street. I'd stopped in for coffee before a Saturday morning run. Was waiting at the counter when I heard my name. Andrew. Diana worked in the same building as Jen, some kind of project manager role. We'd always gotten along at company events, the handful of times I'd actually attended them. She was genuine, the kind of person who asked how you were doing and actually listened to the answer. She seemed genuinely surprised to see me, her expression shifting from friendly recognition to something more careful. How are you? Good, actually. I grabbed my coffee from the barista. You? She hesitated, doing that uncomfortable pause people do when they know something you might not. The morning sunlight streaming through the big windows caught the uncertainty in her eyes. I'm okay. Have you, talked to Jen lately? Not in a month. Why? Oh. She shifted her to-go cup between hands, the cardboard sleeve crinkling. I heard you two are taking a break. The coffee shop hummed with Saturday morning energy around us. Students with laptops, couples sharing pastries, the espresso machine hissing and gurgling. All this normal life happening while mine had quietly imploded. Not a break, I said evenly. She moved out, said the marriage was incompatible with her career goals. Diana's eyes widened, her coffee cup stopping mid-motion. She didn't mention that part. She told me you needed space. Interesting interpretation. She glanced around, then lowered her voice. Andrew, I'm so sorry. How are you holding up? I considered the question honestly. A month ago, I might have given some polite deflection. Now, standing in a sun-filled coffee shop on a Saturday morning with nowhere I had to be and no one scheduled to accommodate, I realized I had an actual answer. Better than I expected, honestly. Turns out I've been accommodating someone else's schedule for so long, I forgot what mine looked like. She nodded slowly, something like recognition in her expression. For what it's worth, that's a really healthy way to look at it. Most people would be a mess right now. Give it time, I said with a slight smile. Might still get there. But I knew I wouldn't. Something had shifted in that first month. Not dramatic, not sudden, just a slow realization that I could breathe deeper without constantly wondering if I was disappointing someone. Around this time, I joined a running group that met Wednesday mornings at Boston Common. I'd seen their posts on a community board at the gym, decided I needed structure, needed something to look forward to that didn't involve sitting alone in an apartment that felt too big now. The first Wednesday in April, I showed up at the Parkman bandstand at 6:30 a.m. 15 people were already there, stretching and chatting, breath visible in the early morning cold. The group leader, a woman named Monica in her 50s who'd apparently run 12 marathons, went over the route. Easy 5 miles around the common and public garden, accommodating all paces. That's where I met Allison Parker. She was wearing a blue running jacket and had her dark hair pulled back in a practical ponytail, none of the fussy styling that Jen always insisted on even for the gym. She was training for next year's Boston Marathon, Monica mentioned during introductions, and I was just trying to outrun my thoughts most mornings. We ended up running at similar paces, fell into step naturally as the group spread out along the path. The early morning air was crisp, the trees in the common just starting to show hints of green. For the first 3 miles, we didn't talk much, just the occasional comment about pace or the route. At the cool-down stretches back at the bandstand, she finally spoke directly to me. You're consistent, she said, pulling one leg back in a quad stretch. Same pace, same breathing rhythm. You've done this before. Used to run in college. Fell off the habit for a while. Getting back into it. Life changes, habits change, she said, switching legs. I smiled at that. Something like that. Good changes, I hope. Getting there. We kept it light those first few weeks. She wasn't flirting. I wasn't interested in anything complicated. But it was nice. Normal conversation with someone who didn't know anything about my situation, who didn't look at me with pity or curiosity or judgment. Just someone who showed up to run and happened to match my pace. 6 weeks post-separation, Keith Sullivan called. We'd been roommates in college, stayed friends after, but I'd let that friendship drift during my marriage. The way you do when you're trying to keep someone else happy. Drinks at Lyre on Thursday, he asked. Yeah, I can do that. We grabbed a booth in the back. Keith was a high school teacher, coached basketball, had been through his own divorce 2 years ago. So, he said after the first beer arrived. Jen finally did it, huh? I wasn't even surprised he knew. Boston's a small town when it comes to news like this. She got offered a VP position. Told me she couldn't do the job and the marriage. I agreed. Keith nodded slowly. My ex did the same thing. Left because I was holding her back. Came crawling back when the guy she left me for didn't work out. What did you do? Told her no. Best decision I ever made. I filed that information away. 2 months in, Jennifer's younger brother Tom called. Hey Andrew, got a minute? Sure, Tom. What's up? Tom was a good kid, just graduated from law school, always liked him. Look, I know it's not my place, but Jen's really struggling. Mom says you won't even talk to her about counseling. I kept my voice even. Tom, let me ask you something. Did she tell you what she said to me? That you two were having communication problems? She told me, word for word, that she couldn't be married and take this VP job, that the responsibilities of marriage were too much. She said this after thinking about it for 3 months. So I agreed and stepped back. There's nothing to communicate. Long silence. She definitely left that part out, Tom said quietly. I'm sure she did. But that's the actual situation. Okay. I get it now. Sorry for bothering you. You're not bothering me, Tom. I appreciate you trying to help. But this is between me and her. That evening, I got an email from Richard Bradford, Jen's father. He'd always been the reasonable one in that family. Andrew, I wanted to reach out personally. I understand there have been difficulties. I wrote back, Richard, I've always respected you. So I'll be direct. Jennifer made a choice between her career and our marriage. She chose her career. I'm honoring that choice. There's nothing complicated about it. His response came an hour later. I appreciate your honesty. For what it's worth, I think she made a mistake. I replied, she's an adult. We all live with our decisions. The running group became my anchor. Wednesday mornings, rain or shine, I showed up at Boston Common. Allison was usually there too. You look different, she observed one morning in mid-May. Lighter somehow. Feel it too, I admitted. Like I've been carrying extra weight I didn't realize was there. Recent breakup? She asked. I appreciated her directness. 3 months ago, wife decided her career was more important than the marriage. Ouch. How'd you take it? Agreed with her. Figured if that's how she felt, I wasn't going to convince her otherwise. Allison nodded approvingly. That's healthy. Most people try to negotiate their value. Yeah, I'm not interested in that game. We started running together more regularly after that. Just friendly, nothing complicated. She was easy to talk to, didn't pry, just existed in the present moment. It was refreshing. 3 months after Jen left, she texted me. Can we meet? I miss you. I stared at the message for a solid minute before responding. What's there to discuss? Us. Our future. I've been thinking. You said the marriage was in your way. I removed myself from your path. That's the future you chose. I never said I wanted a divorce. I almost laughed. You said you couldn't do the marriage and the job. You chose the job. Math isn't complicated. She didn't respond for 3 days after that. Work became another refuge. I'd always been good at my job as a systems analyst, but I'd been distracted for years, always keeping one eye on my phone in case Jen needed something. Now I could focus completely. My boss noticed. You've been on fire lately, Scott said one afternoon. Whatever you're doing, keep it up. Just got rid of some distractions, I said. Spring turned into summer. I kept running, kept working, kept building a life that was mine instead of ours. Keith and I started playing basketball on Saturday mornings with a group of guys from different jobs. It felt good to be part of something regular, something uncomplicated. 6 months after Jen left, Diana Walsh called me. It was a Tuesday. I was just leaving work, walking down Federal Street toward the T station. The September evening was warm, that last gasp of summer before fall really settles in. Andrew, I need to tell you something. I'm not sure if you've heard. I stopped walking, moved to the side of the sidewalk to let other people pass. Heard what? About Jen. She got fired from Sterling and Cross 2 weeks ago. The words didn't immediately register. I heard them, but my brain needed a moment to process. The career she'd sacrificed our marriage for. The VP position that was everything she'd ever worked toward. Gone. What happened? I asked finally. Major client account blew up. She was leading it. The company lost millions. They let her go immediately, blamed her management decisions. Diana's voice dropped lower. It was ugly, Andrew. Security walked her out. They're apparently looking into whether she misrepresented project timelines to keep the client happy. The irony wasn't lost on me. 6 years of watching her prioritize work over everything else, of understanding that her career mattered more than date nights or anniversaries or quiet Sunday mornings together. And it had all come crashing down anyway. That's rough, I said, and meant it. Nobody deserves to lose their job like that, regardless of what else happened. You didn't know? We haven't spoken in months. Why are you telling me this? Diana hesitated. I could hear office noise in the background on her end. Because she's been calling me, asking about you, wanting to know if you're seeing anyone, how you're doing, if I've run into you. I thought you should know what's really going on before she reaches out. I appreciate that. Really. After we hung up, I stood there on the sidewalk for a few minutes, watching people hurry past on their way to dinner or home or wherever. Commuters streaming out of office buildings, starting their evening routines. All this normal life continuing while somewhere across the city, Jennifer was dealing with the wreckage of the choice she'd made. Part of me felt bad. The part that had loved her for 6 years, that still remembered good times before everything became about her career trajectory. But another part, the part that remembered her sitting across from me saying our marriage was incompatible with her success, felt absolutely nothing. That night, lying in bed, I processed the information more carefully. She'd bet everything on that VP position, turned down other offers to hold out for Sterling and Cross, pushed aside our marriage because the demands would be too much. And now it was gone, and she was left with nothing. No job, no husband, no safety net. I didn't reach out. Didn't send a text asking if she was okay. That wasn't cruelty. It was acceptance of the reality she'd created. She'd made her choice. Now she was living with it, just like I was living with mine. 2 weeks later, the texts started coming again. I really need to talk to you. I ignored it. Please. It's important. I responded with one word, no. About the lease. That got a response. Already renewed in my name only. About the joint credit card. Closed it. Get your own. The emotional texts I just deleted unread. 7 months in, she showed up at my office building. I was heading out for lunch, spotted her in the lobby. I kept walking. She followed. Andrew, please. Just give me 5 minutes. I stopped on the sidewalk outside, people flowing around us. No. I drove all the way from my parents' house. Your decision, not my problem. Can we at least get coffee? Like adults? We can talk like adults right here. What do you want? She looked around at the people passing, clearly uncomfortable. Not here. Somewhere private. I'm not interested in private conversations with you. Say what you need to say or don't. Her eyes started to fill with tears. I made a mistake. I see that now. Okay. Just okay? That's all you have to say? What do you want? Validation? You chose your path. I chose mine. We're both living with it. She reached for my arm. I stepped back. I have a lunch meeting. Take care of yourself, Jennifer. Using her full name instead of Jen created exactly the distance I intended. I walked away without looking back. That evening, Keith called. You okay? You sounded off in your text. Met with the ex today. She wants to reconcile. And I said no. That chapter's closed. Good for you, man. She finally realized what she lost. More like she lost everything else first. Now she wants the backup plan. You're not anyone's backup plan, brother. Exactly. A week later, Barbara Bradford called again. Third attempt now, and she sounded less composed than before. Andrew, I'm begging you to reconsider. Jennifer is not doing well. I'm sorry to hear that. She's depressed, not eating properly, staying in her old room. This isn't like her. Barbara, with all due respect, this isn't my responsibility. She made a choice that prioritized her career over our marriage. For 6 years, every major decision went the same way. Her job came first. This was just the final, explicit version. You're being cruel. I'm being honest. There's a difference. She's depressed because the thing she chose over me didn't work out. That's not about me. That's about her bet not paying off. Barbara gasped. How can you be so cold? I was supportive for 6 years while being consistently deprioritized. I gave her exactly what she said she wanted. If she regrets it, that's on her. She hung up without saying goodbye. 8 months after our separation, I came home Saturday morning to find Jen sitting on the front steps of my apartment building. You have to stop doing this, I said immediately. I needed to see you face to face. Really talk. We've talked. Multiple times. The answer's the same. Please. She stood up. Just hear me out. I know I was wrong. You were wrong about what specifically? About choosing my career. About saying the marriage was in my way. I was wrong about all of it. Okay, you were wrong. Now what? Now we work on fixing it. Counseling, therapy, whatever it takes. I checked my watch. I have somewhere to be. You need to leave. That's it. 6 years of marriage and you're checking your watch. 6 years of marriage where I was always the lower priority. Yeah, now I'm checking my watch. I have places to be. Her voice rose. I lost everything. My job, my reputation, my husband. You lost your job. You chose to lose your husband. Different things. I'm asking for another chance. And I'm saying no. That chapter's closed. The phrase hit her visibly. Her face crumpled. You're really done? Just like that? Not just like that. This was 6 years of pattern and 7 months of clarity. I'm done. Right then, Allison pulled up in her car, waved at me through the window. Ready to go? Oh, sorry, didn't realize you had company. Jen looked between us. Who's this? None of your business. Jen, you need to go. Don't come back here. I got in Allison's car. As we pulled away, I saw Jen standing on the sidewalk in the rearview mirror, finally understanding it was really over. Ex-wife? Allison asked once we were a block away. Yeah, she's having trouble accepting the divorce. Are you divorcing? Not officially yet, but we should be. Allison nodded. For what it's worth, you handled that really well. Firm, but not cruel. Thanks. Took practice. A month later, I received divorce papers in the mail. Jennifer had filed. Trying to control the narrative one last time, I figured. Her lawyer to my lawyer, clean and professional. Keith's response when I told him, let her have this one. The filing doesn't matter. The result does. I agreed to all her terms. We didn't have kids, didn't have complicated assets. The apartment was in my name. The car was in hers. Split the savings account down the middle. Done. Both lawyers commented on how unusually amicable it was. They didn't know that all the fighting had already happened, just in a different form. Richard Bradford called me one last time before the court date. Andrew, I wanted to reach out before this becomes final. I appreciate that, Richard. I've learned more about what actually happened. What she actually said to you. I want you to know I don't blame you for your position. That means a lot. I also want you to know she's genuinely remorseful. I believe that. But being sorry doesn't undo the choice. She told me our marriage was incompatible with her career ambitions. For 6 years before that, she showed me the same thing through actions. This wasn't one mistake. It was a pattern. You're right, he said quietly. And I told her as much. I hope she finds what she's looking for. I really do. But it's not going to be with me. Fair enough. You're a good man, Andrew. I'm sorry it ended this way. Me too. Take care of yourself, Richard. The court date arrived on a cold January morning. Suffolk County Probate and Family Court, downtown Boston. I showed up 15 minutes early, dressed in a suit, but not my best one. This wasn't a celebration, just a formality. Jen arrived 10 minutes late with her lawyer. She looked thinner than I remembered, tired. She tried to catch my eye several times while we waited, but I kept my attention on the judge and the documents. The proceeding took maybe 15 minutes total. Uncontested divorce. Both parties agreed to terms, no children, clean split of assets. Divorce is granted, the judge said. You're both free to go. I stood immediately, shook my lawyer's hand, headed for the exit. Andrew, wait. I stopped in the courthouse parking lot, turned around. Jen was following me, her lawyer walking toward a different car. Can we talk? Just for a minute? What's left to say? I need you to know I really did love you. Past tense. Yeah, I figured. I still do. Love you, I mean. I looked at her directly. Jennifer, that doesn't change anything. Love isn't enough when it's not backed up by choices and actions. I know I made mistakes. 6 years of consistent deprioritization isn't mistakes. It's a pattern. It's who you were in this marriage. People change. I've changed. Good. Genuinely, I hope that's true. But I'm not the person you get to practice your new version on. That's really it? After everything? That's really it. I hope the next chapter of your life goes better than this one did. I mean that. I walked to my car, climbed in, drove away. Didn't look in the rearview mirror this time. Didn't need to. Keith took me out for drinks that night. Not to celebrate, just to mark the moment. How do you feel? He asked. Relieved. Like the last piece finally fell into place. That's healthy, man. Most people would be emotional. I was emotional 10 months ago when she left. Now I'm just ready to close this chapter. 3 months after the divorce was finalized, I ran into Tom Bradford at a Celtics game. Keith had gotten tickets through his school, and we were grabbing beers during halftime when I spotted him. Andrew. Tom looked genuinely surprised. Didn't expect to see you here. Keith had extra tickets. How've you been? Good, yeah. You? Really good, actually. Tom hesitated, glanced at his friends waiting a few feet away. Look, I wanted to say. I get it now. Why you did what you did. Jen talked to me recently. Really talked. Told me the actual story. How is she? Working again. Smaller company, less prestigious. She's in therapy, dealing with stuff. Good for her. I mean that. She asked me to tell you she's sorry. Not in a please take me back way. Just, actually sorry. I nodded. I appreciate you telling me. Really. For what it's worth, you were right. About all of it. We shook hands. His friends called him back. Life moved on. 2 weeks later, an unknown number texted me late on a Sunday night. This is Jennifer. I got a new phone. I wanted to send you one last message. I read it, didn't respond immediately. I've been in therapy for 3 months. My therapist helped me see the pattern you talked about. You were right. I consistently chose my career over our marriage, over you. For 6 years. That final conversation was just me saying out loud what I'd been showing through actions all along. Another message came through. I'm not asking for anything. I don't expect a response. I just needed you to know that I understand now what I did. And I'm genuinely sorry. Not sorry it didn't work out the way I wanted. Sorry that I hurt someone who loved me and treated me well. You deserve better than what I gave you. Then, I hope you're happy. You deserve to be. This is really goodbye. Jen. I stared at the messages for several minutes. Thought about everything that had happened, everything that led to this moment. Finally, I typed back. I appreciate you saying this. It takes courage to own mistakes this fully. I am happy. I hope you find your version of that. Take care of yourself. Andrew. I hit send. Didn't block the number. Didn't need to. Allison was making coffee in my kitchen the next morning when I told her about the text. How do you feel about it? She asked, handing me a cup. Glad she's working on herself. Genuinely. But it doesn't change anything. Doesn't need to. Allison said simply. You're allowed to wish her well and still be done. That's what I appreciated about Allison. No drama, no complications. Just healthy boundaries and honest communication. We've been dating for a few months now, taking it slow, no pressure. Want to do the half-marathon training run this morning? She asked. Yeah, let me grab my shoes. 6 months after the divorce, I was fully settled into my new life. Got promoted to senior analyst at work. Regular running schedule with actual goals now. Weekly basketball with Keith and his friends. Sunday dinners with Allison when our schedules aligned. One Sunday afternoon, we were having coffee at Tad in Brookline Village when she said, You seem really settled. I feel it. Like I've got my footing back. Can I ask you something? Sure. Do you think about her still? I considered the question honestly. Sometimes. But not with anger or regret. More like acknowledgement that it happened and now it's done. That's healthy. Took a while to get here. But yeah, it feels right. Looking back now felt like remembering someone else's life. The person who bent himself into shapes to accommodate someone else's ambitions. The person who accepted crumbs of attention and called it love. That person needed to learn his own value. Took 6 years of marriage and over a year to figure it out. But I got there. My phone buzzed. Keith texting about next week's basketball game. Same time next Saturday. I typed back, same time. Simple. Exactly what life should be. Dear listeners, that's our ending. If it resonated, subscribe to support the channel. See you next time.